Good morning, my friends. Welcome to Jesus, Judy, and Tea. I didn't do a message last week. I was on vacation. My daughter treated me and her stepdaughter to a trip to New York City. And I want to share a little bit of that with you today because the Lord really opened my eyes and my heart to some things, and I think I want to just share a little bit of that with you today. We arrived in New Jersey about, I don't know, 8 o'clock in the morning or something, because we flew all night, and then we had to walk around all day long and till our room was ready. And we saw the Statue of Liberty. We saw the Empire State Building. We went up there at night, and Top of the Rock, which was 70 stories high. I think we made it to 86 stories on the Empire State Building, because the other one was 106 or something, but the tickets were sold out for that one. Statue of Liberty. We went on a dinner cruise on the Hudson. Spent 5 hours, at least 5 hours, in the American Museum of Natural History, and that happens to be the museum where Night of the Museum, if you've ever watched the 2 movies, Night of the Museum, that's where it was recorded. So we spent a lot of time there, a lot to see there. And then we spent about 3 hours in the museum for 9/11. And as I approached the museum from across the street, if you've never been there, they have this huge wall, and it etched into the top of the wall were all the names of the people that were lost. And over the edge is a continuous, beautiful fountain of lights that changes lights at night. And we didn't see it at night, but that's what we were told. Beautiful. And I walked up and started reading names, and I just started crying. It just was overwhelming at the loss, of the names. And there were periodically you would see, because the names were actually etched in, people were able to come in and they would buy white roses, and they would put the roses down on the names of their loved ones that died that day. And there were 3 names that I took recordings of, 3 women who were pregnant, and it says their name and their unborn child. There were 10 pregnant women that died that day. And as I walked through the museum, understanding how tragic 9/11 was, and we hear about it and we remember it every year and stuff like that, and I'm not being flippant, and we know it in our head, and maybe a little bit of our heart touches it, but for me, walking through that museum and watching the recordings and listening to the voices that they've saved, recordings that the family members have donated. One man I remember was on the plane, and he said something to the effect of, he called his wife and he said, "Honey, I think our plane's being hijacked. I don't think I'm going to make it home today. I love you. Goodbye." And there was a few recordings like that from the plane, from different places. And, that people knew they were going to die. And my spiritual heart began to crumble a little bit, because how many of those thousands of people had a chance to cry out to the Lord? How many of them died without knowing the Lord? How many of them reached out at the last minute and went to heaven anyway? It really touched my spiritual heart, and I cried through the whole museum just about. And they had tissues periodically, and I have never been in any place like that where you can see hundreds of people in this one big room looking at the walls that were salvaged and put on display, and twisted pieces of metal, from the building that looked like a toothpick that had been crumbled. And I have never seen so many adults in one place. Somber is the only word I can come up with. Everybody was quiet, respectful. It wasn't a happy place. And I remember seeing this man and woman, and he was crying so hard. He had to lean up against one of the walls, and his wife was trying to comfort him. He was totally broken by this display of tragedy of the 911 attack. And they had things like videos that you didn't see on TV. One person was taking a video from the ground right in front of the building, and when the plane hit, all these shoes flew out of the sky, and they're hitting the concrete sidewalk. Shoes blown right off of people's feet. Some of these shoes are on display, still with the blood on them. And I was really moved by the loss there, and how many of those people died not knowing the Lord. And I walked around for about 2 hours crying and sad, because I've taken advantage. I've taken it for granted. We hear about 9/11 every year, and it was moving for me. It really was. And after about 2 hours, I told the Lord, I said, I need something from this besides the tragedy. Show me what I need to see. And the Lord very clearly said, pray for my people in New York City. So I've been praying for the people of New York City. And as we went around to different places, and on the subways, and to Coney Island, and through the park, and different places that we were able to see the site of where John Lennon was shot, the Lord began to open my eyes to people that were unhappy, people that were angry. That we had one conductor on one of the subways, and when she made her announcements, you could tell she was mad. She was screaming. You could just tell she was mad. So somewhere on one of the trains, somebody was blocking the doors so it wouldn't shut, and she couldn't take off because they wouldn't free the doors up. And she stayed mad for that whole trip. And the Lord began to show me there were people, and I'm not going to say they were angry, but they weren't happy. There was no joy in their hearts. There was no joy in their face. And the Lord began to show me these faces all over New York City that are just unhappy. They have no joy. I don't know if they're tired of tourists being moronic, kind of, because everybody stops in the middle of the road on Times Square and takes pictures, and nobody can get around them. But the Lord touched my heart with a burden for the people of New York City. And it's still on me today, because there's so many unhappy people there. But I got to tell you, the city was amazing. I would go again in a heartbeat. I loved experiencing Times Square being busy and chaotic, and I loved all the things that our daughter took us to, the things that I was able to experience and see. But the 9/11 thing really touched my heart big. I mean, it was really a super tragedy. And for those of you who haven't really paid much attention, if you get a chance to go to New York, go. If you don't do anything else, go to the memorial. It's so worth seeing. It will open your eyes, I guarantee it. What people don't understand is There was I think two fire trucks on display that were ruined. There was an ambulance completely burned out. There was nothing inside but twisted, melted metal and ash. Where an ambulance was destroyed, two fire trucks were destroyed. A door was on display from a medical examiner that was tore up, and a police car door was destroyed or was banged up, and another door to a special unit, a special I've lost the word, a special recovery group that was there. And as I read about this door, there was 14 members of that team lost that day. People don't realize the devastation wasn't just the people on the planes that we don't think much about. It was people on the planes, both planes, plus the ones that hit the Pentagon. It was the buildings and the people that were killed in the buildings. It was colonels that took their belts off to stop the bleeding for someone he didn't even know. It was fire chiefs that were injured and being taken away. And his buddy said, "Don't worry about it, boss. I'll go in and save some more lives." And he said, "Will you take care?" And he says, "I will." And his friend never came out. He saved some people, but he gave his life. And it was the individuals that really moved me that day. So I've been praying for New York and the people that I saw, and not so much angry, just not happy. The people in retail are just not happy. They're not smiling, and the people on the subway were quiet and respectful, and everybody's saying, "Oh, watch the subways, they're so dangerous." Yes, they are, but the Lord was with us, and I had no doubts he would protect us, and he did. So the other thing I want to share that touched me was when we were at the Museum of Natural History. They have a planetarium show, and I went in and I sat in the back. My kids were up front. My daughter and stepdaughter are about the middle, and I said, I'm going to go sit in the back because I think I could see better. So I sat in the back, and this planetarium show was on the Milky Way, and they have sent this thing into space. I can't remember what it's called, Galileo or something like that. And it's been mapping stars up there in the Milky Way, and they have mapped, I honestly can't remember if it was 2 million or 2 billion. I think it was 2 million stars more than they've already mapped. And when they lit this planetarium up, there was billions of stars on display above me. And what came to my heart is, and he knows every star by name. And I'm looking at this little planetarium building or ceiling with millions of replicas of stars up there, and God knows the names of every one. And that's only the ones in our galaxy that they've mapped. And how that knowledge is the tip of a pin in comparison to how mighty our God is. How mighty God is. And I was really moved by those stars. And then what also came on my heart is, look at the lilies and the flowers of the field. They don't toil, they don't worry. God dresses them in beauty every day, and how much more important are you than the flowers? How much more important are you than the billions of stars that he knows all the names to? And how important are we? And then there was another room that we went into. It was called the Invisible World, and it was kind of a big oval room, and it was all you'd sit in there, and all of a sudden lights would come through and cover the grounds, and what you're stepping, you would step and the floor would light up, and it represented blood vessels and corpuscles and nerve endings and trees, and how the seed, they've taken the seed and they've portrayed the inside. I can't even explain it. All over this room is filled with you're on the inside of a leaf. You're on the inside of the bark of a tree. And those images just reinforced how mighty God is, how mighty He is. And the floor lit up with all these stripes and of different colors, and it represents our nerve endings and our blood vessels. And somebody says something blew up and we exist. That's hogwash. I could not stand in that room and be in the middle of a leaf and know that came from God. That didn't come from an explosion. That's just dumb. I'm sorry, but that's just dumb. God created all of it. How wonderful He is, and how amazing He is, and how much He loves you, and He loves me, and how He takes care of us, and He kept us safe on the subways. And there was a couple times we went to see the Empire State Building at night, so we checked in at like 8:30, and it was dark when we got back, and we had to take the subway home. It was about 9, it might have been 10 or 10:30, but the Lord protected us. There was no weird people there. They have officers periodically, and they have security guards that come in, and every once in a while they'll step in and check the cab, the train that you're on, and go to the next one. And we're there a little longer because security is checking for people. So it was pretty safe for us. I think the Lord kept His hand on us. And but it was an amazing time. I would totally go again. Experiencing the subway, and a river cruise on the Hudson River was another thing. The Hudson River is naturally rough, and I have about a 10-second video of when we got on our ferry, and out the window you could see, here's the water in the window, and then all of a sudden it temporarily disappears, and then it goes back up. And so we were rocking so hard from the rough waters, and as we got out onto the water, we were pretty steady, but you could see the river was very choppy. The Hudson River is a very choppy river. And it also reminded me, I know the Lord did all this for me. Sullenberger, Captain Sully, who landed that plane on the Hudson, it is a miracle. It's another miracle. That man has to believe in God. He was a miracle that day. He took place the day that he landed that plane and saved everybody on board. So the Lord really showed me some good things to be appreciative for, some miracles that have taken place, miracles in our body, miracles in a leaf, miracles in a tree growth, miracles on a plane, miracles on the water, miracles 86 stories above ground, miracles looking over all these lights, miracles in somebody's face. And it was an experience that I will appreciate for the rest of my life, because the Lord opened my heart to a burden for New York City and those people there. And I ask that, my nose is beaming because I've been blowing it and still blubbering today. So that's what I wanted to share today. Be grateful and thankful to the Lord for everything that you see. Ask Him to open your eyes. Ask Him to open your heart for what He wants you to see, what He wants you to know, what He wants you to experience, what He wants you to pray for. Ask for that burden. Ask for Him to put that on your heart so you know how to pray for these people or for whoever He puts on your life. And it's not just New York City. That just happens to be my burden. It's your neighborhood. It's your next door neighbor. It's somebody at your church that's going through a separation or a tragedy or money problems. It's your congressman. It's your president. It's your cabinet members. It's your mayor. It's your city manager. Have a burden for those people and keep them in prayer for the Lord all the time. My time is up. I've rambled enough. Thank you for letting me share my vacation with you, and thank you for listening. Let's close in a quick prayer. Lord, there's no way that I can just properly thank you for all the experiences in the last 10 days, but I want to honor you for the miracle of our bodies and a leaf and a tree and an amoeba, the miracle of a whale, the miracle of a starfish, just the miracle of an elephant, the miracles that I saw, the miracles in the stars. Thank you. I praise you. I thank you. I honor you. And I just appreciate you so much. Be with my friends out there that are watching this. Bless them. Put something on their hearts that you want them to pray for and remember. And help us to be grateful and honor you in all that we do and all that we say. In your precious name I praise you. Amen. Thank you, my friends. Bye-bye.